Is Seattle ready for the next big earthquake?
Earthquake.
Our school kids certainly look and sound prepared.
Like drop, cover, and hold. Like we've been studying a lot on that concept.
But studying the city overall, especially some of its older buildings, is a job that could leave you shaken.
These buildings, sort of first and foremost, represent a life safety risk.
The Seattle Department of Construction and Inspections, or SDCI, says there are more than 1,100 unreinforced masonry buildings, or URMs, in Seattle. Generally, the walls inside URMs are not secured to the roof, ceiling, or floors, which means, in the event of a major earthquake, damage, injuries, and potential loss of life inside and outside these buildings.
This is a really good example of what happens to a building during an earthquake, to an unreinforced masonry building.
Megan Scott, with the UW's Center for Preservation and Adaptive Reuse, is surveying all the URMs that the city has publicly identified, and says Seattle may have even more of these buildings than we think.
The work will just be so expensive.
Her main concern is, in a fast-growing city pushing for more density, the high cost of retrofitting could force property owners to tear down culturally and historically valuable buildings instead.
A lot of our history is embodied in our built environment, in the buildings that we interact with, and if we lose them, we lose a lot of that history.
How do we pay for these?
John Siu, principal engineer and building official for SDCI, says the city has been wrestling with the URM problem for years.
They are very vulnerable buildings.
Siu says after a 6.5 magnitude quake in 1965, Seattle city leaders passed an ordinance requiring seismic upgrades, but soon after rescinded the law when owners left their buildings vacant, unable to pay for the changes.
Now that we have a new mayor, we have to brief the new mayor.
Siu is hoping a change in leadership for the city could mean a change in the way Seattle incentivizes seismic upgrades for property owners.
We are trying to look at more carrots than sticks, but the carrots are hard to find.
SDCI would like the council to pass an ordinance giving building owners a 7 to 13-year window to complete seismic retrofit work, depending on the urgency of the need. Siu is recommending what's called a Bolts Plus standard to be put in place, a less expensive fix that could provide at least some protection in the case of a quake.
We would like to take that standard, adopt it as a minimum standard, so that we create some certainty for the owners that if I do this amount of work, I don't have to go back and redo it when the ordinance passes.
Historic buildings have a useful life to them.
Eugenia Wu is Director of Preservation Services for Historic Seattle, a nonprofit dedicated to Seattle's architectural heritage. Following the 2001 Nisqually earthquake, Historic Seattle led the work to buy and fix the Cadillac Hotel in Pioneer Square, turning it into the Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park. It was a $10.6 million rebuild, accomplished with federal tax credits and other major support.
That all just came together really well.
But the city's new plan to require URM upgrades would impact buildings with a lot less financial backing, like the Good Shepherd Center in Wallingford, also owned by Historic Seattle.
We support this, but with some caveats.
Wu, who was also a member of Seattle's URM Policy Committee, says the city will need to be creative to help owners deal with retrofit work that can run $60 or more per square foot.
What are some financial incentives that could be offered, meaningful financial incentives that can be offered to property owners, because this will be a big cost.
Retrofitting these buildings is very expensive.
City leaders are not shying away from the fact that retrofitting URMs comes at a high cost, which might include displacement of some of our most vulnerable low-income residents. But up against the potential cost of human life, URMs present a high-stakes problem the city doesn't want to gamble on.
I think we're more aware of the issues. Can we get it done is a matter of will.